Dr. Corene Matyas joins me, Professor of Geography at the University of Florida, whose research focuses on hurricanes, and who joins us from Gainesville in northern Florida. Corene, thank you very much for coming on the programme. I guess northern Florida is probably the place to be at the moment.
Well, we're right on the edge of where there could be some heavy rainfall, and we still have a lot of tree debris from Hurricane Helene that came through not too long ago. So we're not quite out of the woods where we are. You'd want to be just a little bit further north, I think.
How big is the area that this hurricane will affect?
It's going to affect quite a large area because the wind field is expanding in size. This commonly happens when tropical cyclones start to move north into the more middle latitude zones where they are affected by the westerly winds. And so they can take that energy and grow out their wind field. So potentially the maximum wind lowers a little bit, but the area of hurricane force winds and damaging force winds gets larger. So it does expose more people. And we do expect hurricane force winds to sweep all the way across the peninsula and even affect folks on the east coast of Florida.
How common are hurricanes in this kind of area? Because I've been to Florida a few times, and I remember one time I went to the Florida Keys in the 1990s. I think there was one a few weeks after I went, and I was thinking, well, how on earth will a lot of the properties that I saw survive that? And yet they keep coming. Is their frequency increasing?
Well, Florida does receive more landfalling tropical cyclones than any other state in the United States, and we're vulnerable because we're a peninsula. We jut out into the path of where these storms are. So we can get hit on the East Coast, we can get hit on the West Coast, we can get hit on the Panhandle as well. And so it's a risk that you have to be willing to take if you're going to purchase property and live here in the state of Florida.
How does a hurricane start?
We need several ingredients that all have to be present. And so in terms of heat and moisture, we need warm ocean waters. And then we need the ability of air to, once they evaporate that moisture, for the air to rise. And then once the air rises, it condenses out to form the clouds and the precipitation. And so we also need a lot of moisture in the atmosphere as well, because that spiral shape of the storm draws in air from far away. It could be as far as like 2,000 kilometers outside of the storm is where you're bringing air into the storm to replace the moisture you're losing from the rainfall. And then from the motion, the dynamic side, we need to have a little bit of spin that gets that organization, that spiral shape going. And in this case, we had a little bit of vorticity from the Central American gyre. And we need to not be right on the equator, because we do need the Earth's rotation to help organize the storm. And then we also need an absence of strong winds in the upper troposphere. Basically, we need this bubble, this warm, moist bubble, to be able to form from the bottom up so that we extract all that energy out of the ocean. And so when this storm formed, all those conditions were together and quite favorable with the really warm ocean waters and the high amount of moisture. The storm rapidly intensified to a Category 5.
And how long does it take for the hurricane to pass from the west coast to the east coast?
It's highly dependent on the steering of the storm. So right now it is starting to be steered by a middle latitude weather system, a trough. And so when the tropical system interacts with the middle latitude system, it often restructures the system and it speeds it up. So right now it's moving at about 16 miles an hour, but we project for that to increase. But the timing of that increase will most certainly affect how long the storm stays over Florida, and also how much rainfall is produced. The slow movers produce more rain. And so we'll see how that plays out.
Thank you very much for joining us, and hope the hurricane doesn't affect your area too much. That's Dr. Corene Matyas from the University of Florida.